What it do is good, YouTube. If you don't know, you gonna know. It's your boy Zay, man. I'm back here with another reaction video, bruh. Hey, man. Today. I was going through YouTube. I ain't gonna fake. I seen this little shit. This little suburban drill beef turns into a deadly gang war. I was gonna watch it by myself, bruh, but I feel like this is video material. Like it seemed intriguing, it seemed interesting. So you know what I'm saying. I don't really know how exactly drill beef is in the suburbs, but shit, we gonna see. Before I get into this video, leave a like, comment what you want me to react to next. Subscribe to my main channel at Who Is Zay TV and follow me on Instagram at is.zay03. And let's get into this video, man. Let's get into it.
Bodies started dropping in a crazy back and forth suburban gang war. Police had no idea what to think or how to handle the deadly beefs. Welcome to the
Look at these niggas.
suburbs of Spokane, Washington.
Those gunshots rang out in this residential neighborhood as people slept. Just 2 days earlier, 4 people were shot
Washington.
at Dutch Jake Park in West Central Spokane.
Spokane is ranked in the 100 best places to live, and
Like, that's what I'm saying, bro. How does that even come about? Like, how does that even... We gonna see, though. Ranked top 100 best places to live in the U.S. Do you know how many places it is to live in the U.S.? And it just so happens to be a drill beef deadly gang war in one of the best places to live. Like, how does that even make sense? That's contradicting, first of all. Well, we gonna see.
historically known as one of the safest places in America. With that being said, they have had a recent gang problem and police are not sure what to do about it.
I hate saying this, it's kind of like a wild, wild west.
The suburban gangs here are self-made imitations of well-known gangs across the USA.
Generally, we have Bloods, Crips, Gangster Disciples.
And just like their counterparts, these guys are responsible for a lot of chaos in the streets.
Officers found one person dead in the street and another victim shot in the face, but
But what are they beefing about, though? What are they beefing about, though? Like, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Just because you from a hood or just because you from a suburb don't mean that you own it or not own it. Because I ain't gonna fake, when somebody, bro, anybody could get behind the trigger and pull that bitch, bro. I ain't gonna fake it to you. Anybody has the, feel me, same, what's the word? Capabilities. Like, I mean, some people like doing it and like be on demon time and shit, but bro, if somebody pulls the trigger at you, like, you could get shot, bro. Niggas get mad, you could get shot.
a short time later, police learned
That mean you could die, bro. It don't matter who behind the trigger.
other shooting victims had been dropped off at a hospital.
Nowadays, everyone wants to be a gangsta. From the deadly streets of Chicago to the middle of the sticks, everyone is claiming a gang, throwing up hand signs, smoking the ops, and repping a set. For some of these white guys that look like pretenders wearing a Halloween costume, they are actually really involved in deadly suburban back and forths that are claiming the lives of countless young men. Influenced by the music, they are creating gangs in the suburbs, becoming real drillers and catching bodies just like their favorite rappers. The deadly drill culture created from the war in Chicago had a huge impact on culture in the United States. First, it impacted nearly all the hoods in America.
Y'all think Chicago beefs and Chicago gangs is the most like known or like most looked into in the United States? I feel like it's between Chicago, New York. I don't know. New York not really like. New York, they got gangs and beefs and shit for sure, but I don't think it's like Chicago, like talked about and stuff like that. But I think it's Chicago, New York, and probably Florida. Yeah.
And the drill scene made
Maybe
its way
Cali.
into nearly every state now. In the year 2024, there are even drillers in the hoods of Alaska. Next, it made its way into the suburbs, and what started off as kids pretending to be their favorite rappers turned into deadly back and forths, claiming the lives of suburban kids and shocking their communities. For this story, we are going to Spokane, Washington. Ranked in the 100 best places to live, this is not an area that is used to gangs and violence. So when police found the body of a young man riddled with bullet holes, the result of a deadly gang war, they did not know where to start. They were aware of a growing gang problem
I
in
feel
their
like
city.
how does that even start though? Cause like police come faster in like suburbs or like white neighborhoods. Police usually come faster, and I feel like it would be more prevented than when you're in the hood. So I don't really even know how we even get to a point where it's like gangs and shit
Now started seeing the ramifications as bodies started dropping.
and
For
killing
15-year-old
that many
Preston Grisoriak, he
police.
thought of himself as a gangsta and jumped off the suburban porch and wanted to involve himself with the suburban gangs in his neighborhood. Preston wasn't an official member, but was affiliated with the suburban Long Beach Crips gang. A gang based out of Long Beach, Los Angeles made its way to the suburbs of Spokane, and they were in a deadly back and forth with the 18th Street Blue Devils, another suburban set terrorizing the burbs and responsible for a number of different bodies in the suburbs of Washington. Preston, a known trapper in the area, when he wasn't busting plays and serving the youth, he was online dissing and smoking on the rivals that had passed away at the result of gang activity. As the disses increased to get revenge for their deceased
Is
homies,
this really them though? Like this shit looks so crazy to me for some reason. But shit, they own that though, shit. But it just looks so crazy. It looks so odd. Like, I don't know.
these sets began to slide and the war was turning deadly. During this time, Preston messaged
It's usually,
Stephen, a
like,
member
you-
of the rival 18.
Like, I don't know if this is racist or like whatever the word is for it. But usually you don't see like a whole group of white people like this. Like usually it'll be like one or two out of a group, not a whole group of them though. Like I don't know.
Blue Devils gang and tells him he has a rack on his head and it's up and he's rolling up and puffing on all his homies that had passed away. This is when Steven goes into crash out mode
wonder
and
what led
comes
him
up with a
to
plan to
this
catch
shit.
Preston lacking so him and his boys from 18th Street can roll him up and turn him into a pack. A couple days later, Preston is kicking it with a couple Long Beach Crip homies. They're playing dice, sparking up, and Preston is going in and out of the house busting traps. When a girl named Daisy, who he had messed around with in the past, but Daisy ended up ghosting Preston, leaving him heartbroken, and simping hits up Preston asking for some work. He's excited for the chance to potentially rekindle what they had. You can't ever trust these girls from the streets of Chicago to the streets of Philly. Men always get backdoored and chipped when chasing women. And unfortunately for Preston, this tactic is used by the suburban gang
And look what just happened to Lil Scone.
as well. Steven, who was Preston's main op, was the big dog in the burbs, bro, had his pick of women and was knocking down everything he wanted.
What the
If
fuck?
you had a girlfriend who was considered bad during this time, I hate to break it to you, but bro definitely cracked. And he was also known as someone who liked getting intimate with more than one lady at a time. But Preston was not thinking with his
Oh, that
head.
nigga had motion. That nigga had motion. How the fuck do this nigga, was he here? How the fuck the narrator know all this shit? That nigga had motion.
Wrapped up his boys and left for the rival's hood to conduct a sale of illegal substances. Part of the reason he left was because Daisy kept blowing up Preston's phone asking over and over where he is and telling Preston to hurry up and get here. And then when Preston arrives around 10:23 at night, and now the young man at only the age of 15 tragically passes away. Police are shocked. They figure the
15?
crime is gang related, but nobody is talking and they have nowhere to look. Eventually, after checking Preston's phone history, they
15?
realize the last person he spoke with was Daisy. Daisy, who had recently moved to Spokane with her family from Texas, admitted to police she had reached out to Preston so she could buy some product, but had no idea what was going to happen to him, and at first they believed her.
So she
Morgan
15?
McAllister, who was the girlfriend of Steven, who is Preston, the young man who tragically passed away's biggest stop, ends up hearing some suspicious discussions taking place in her house. She asks Steven if he was responsible for Preston, and he admits what he did to the young man, but because she loves him, she decides not to go to police and stands by her man who was cheating on her this whole time. Steven at this point is a made man, and he goes up the ranks of his gang, the 18th Street Blue Devils, and they keep dropping songs dissing Preston.
Every night I'm smoking on, you know who pack. Heard they on my post, man. I guess they heard the news.
Damn.
He was right about one thing. Police were
Damn.
definitely on his posts and had heard the new track. But instead of laying low, they kept dropping more and more songs. Then in a song called Creepin', they explain about the murder and exactly how it went down. Because of what he did, Steven, in a set of almost 50 members, became the #1 ranked Blue Devil and was now calling the shots. But bro was starting to feel some pressure and had a sense that the cops were closing in on him, so him
I'm
and his
still confused though. Like, does all this stem from them listening to other music? Like, how does this? I'm still confused how this happens. Like,
main girl Morgan packed their bags and moved down to Vegas, where they have a number of 18th Street Blue Devils gang members living. During this time, Morgan starts noticing a change in Steven. To support them financially, just like Walter White, he starts trapping ice and begins using it on a heavy basis and becomes more and more abusive towards Morgan. Morgan, who was always covered in bruises and always had a black eye, knew things were only going to get worse as she stayed in Vegas with her boyfriend, who had recently taken the life of a 15-year-old and his gang buddies. The gang every day was either rapping or trapping, and Morgan was feeling very isolated from her family, and the beatings were getting worse and worse. She was starting to fear for her life, and
I don't respect no nigga that beat on a girl, bro. That shit weak as fuck.
she was going to have to find a way to leave Steven, or else she would end up like Preston. So she decides to start saving money and eventually saves up enough to purchase a Greyhound ticket. Since she is fully aware of what Preston is capable of, she waits until he gets blackout drunk and sneaks out the house when he passes out and gets on an Uber and heads back for Spokane. 3 months after the crime was committed, detectives handcuff Steven, who is feeling cocky and laughing because he thinks he is going to easily beat the charges and return to his suburban gang, the 18th Street Blue Devils. But when they took him into questioning, police knew something he didn't. Steven had his full 18th Street gang attire on. He was wearing a number 18 Raiders jersey and recently gotten a number of new gang tattoos showing his allegiance to the 18th Street Blue Devils. Steven, who is not the brightest bulb in the room, waves his
2002. That nigga a year older than me.
to an attorney and agrees to speak with detectives, something he would later regret. Steven, who has a public Snap and Instagram, tells police all about their back and forth online, giving them motive for what he had done, but claims he had nothing to do with it and it was all a bunch of cap. After an hour of admitting he is a part of the gang, admitting a motive for what happened, and talking way too much, police straight up ask Steven if he was responsible for Preston. A bulb finally goes off in his head and he realizes the situation he just talked himself into, and he asks for a lawyer and says he no longer wants to speak with police, who laughed and told him, "You already told us everything we need, buddy." It was looking like the king of the burbs was destined for jail, but if his ex-girlfriend and all the witnesses remained loyal, maybe bro will get out of this situation.
Maybe bro would get out.
Police end up letting him go and he returns to his house in Vegas. He is sharing with other gang members. Now that his main girl left, he decides to hit up his side girl Daisy, who is in love with the suburban thug, and jumps on a Greyhound and travels all the way to Vegas to be with her lover boy.
Wait. So how old is she? Maybe this was a few years ago. Maybe this was a few years ago, because maybe they was the same age around that time or something. Because he a year older than me. And if this was recent and she was 15 and dude was 15, yeah, maybe it was a few years ago.
When his old girlfriend finds out about how fast he moved on and that he was now living with Daisy, she was heartbroken and decides to take a trip to the police station to spill all the beans and tell the police everything she knows about what Steven did to Preston. She claims Steven around his gang buddies would act tough and laugh about what he did, but behind closed doors he was crying to her about it because he felt bad about the fact that Preston was only 15 years old, which he did not know at the time. And for Daisy, who was living with Preston, she had began fearing him just like his ex-girlfriend.
That's what I thought, bro. This is weird. But what's her name? The dude that he killed, he wanted her though, so they had to be around the same age. So now he want her, and she is young. I don't know. This kind of, I don't know. So I don't know.
Morgan did. While indulging in substances with Preston and the gang, she had let it slip that she had family members in the rival Crips gang, and Preston was extremely angry and said she's lucky she's not rolled up with Preston in the pack they are smoking on. Preston and Daisy were terrorizing Las Vegas. He was using her to set up people to get robbed, and he was also having her sell illegal substances for him. They were deeply involved in the underground criminal world of Las Vegas. Instead of laying low, Steven keeps getting more and more gang tattoos representing the 18th Street Blue Devils. Police are gathering more and more evidence, and eventually they get enough for an arrest. The 5'9", 150-pound suburban gangsta's luck had run out. People always glamorize the gangsta lifestyle, but the fact of the matter is, if you're out there catching bodies and committing crimes, especially today with all...
Two ways it's gonna go. Two ways. This way, we got the jail. This way, we got dead.
Cameras out there, you're either going to get arrested and spend the rest of your life in a prison cell, or you're going to be caught by your rivals and end up in a grave. The streets are undefeated. And now, only 3 months after the heinous crime against 15-year-old Preston, Stephen was handcuffed and charged with first-degree murder. And now it's up to the courts to prove that Stephen was responsible. Stephen was feeling arrogant since so much time had passed and was telling news reporters had police had any substantial evidence they would have picked him up earlier.
If there was surveillance video that showed me at the crime, they would have grabbed me a lot sooner than over a month and a half.
And that arrogance made police want to get all the evidence necessary so he would receive the harshest sentence possible. But Stephen didn't realize he had left critical evidence at the scene, and there were key witnesses working with the police. Police found critical evidence from when Stephen messaged Daisy a month ago and told her to come out to Las Vegas. Police discovered that only 2 weeks before what happened to Preston, Stephen had added Daisy as a friend on Facebook. After a flirty back and forth, they exchanged numbers and added each other on Snapchat, where they began sending photos to one another. From the start, Daisy thought Stephen was the most handsome and the coolest guy she had ever met. She was willing to do anything to get Stephen's validation, and the police knew that. Police also discovered that when they met, they both were in...
So, that means she gotta get in some legal trouble too. It's not all just on Steven Weaving. Steven Universe. Some of this shit, hold on. Some of this shit gotta go towards on her too. I ain't gonna fake.
...relationships and were going behind the back of their significant other. It was also discovered that when Daisy agrees to move out to Las Vegas to live with Stephen, that she had never met him in person, and her first time meeting him was when they moved in together and began a relationship.
That's
and the
the
nail
dumbest
in
shit
the
I ever heard
coffin
in
was
my
when
life.
police discovered a text between Stephen and Daisy saying he wished he could put Preston's scared face on a t-shirt and wear it everywhere he went. Probably not the best idea unless you are actively trying to spend the rest of your life in jail. But for Stephen, he didn't care about the consequences and wanted everyone to know what he had done. Then when Verizon sent police all of Stephen's call records, it was discovered that he called his ex-girlfriend who was at his house sleeping 81 times after committing the crime. And this is when...
Nigga, what the fuck? 81? Was she not answering for all them 81s? Or what the fuck? 81? Bruh, I damn near can't call somebody twice. You press ring. You press your phone and let that bitch ring every time. 81 times? Is you it? Like, what the fuck?
Police bring Morgan in for questioning to see if she could have had any involvement. With the fear of being charged looming over her head, she tells the police everything. She tells police Stephen parked 3 blocks from the apartment complex. Then he walks a couple blocks, approaches. Preston whips out his blower and hits him 6
shit. She done spilled all the tea. You're going to jail, buddy. You're going to jail.
times. He then starts panicking and decides to jump a nearby fence, then runs back to his car, and as he is driving out of the complex, he accidentally hits a nearby car, leaving crucial evidence for police. Police then want to know how he got the blower, and she explains that Matt, who was one of his best buddies and also a fellow 18th Street Blue Devil gang member, was the one that sold Stephen the blower used in the crime. He also told Matt the night of the crime about problems he was having with a rival, and he said he was going to handle the issue that night. Matt thought he was just going to scare or beat up the kid, but never thought there was any chance that Stephen would take things further. But when he did, everyone was proud of him, and he was stamped as a general in the 18th Street Blue Devils gang. Matthew said that Stephen was bragging to everyone about what he did and was showing off the fact that there was still blood on his shoes from the crime scene. He took it as far as to start sharing a Spokane News article about the crime with all of his gang buddies. He wanted full credit for what he had done and wasn't going to be happy unless everyone knew that he had caught a body. Back in the day, criminals wanted to get away.
Bro. something I realized, bro. The real dangerous niggas is not gonna flaunt and talk about and try to get all the credit and shit for what they done did. They felt like they had to do it, and they go along with they shit, bro. The niggas who want a gangster persona or want to be feared or want to be intimidating to others, they always try to tell every little thing that they did or do just so they can get some attention or be like, oh damn, that nigga hard. He not sweet. Why you want everybody to, why is you trying to flex bad shit that you did? Shit don't even making no sense to me, bro. And then be salty when they sitting in the cell for the rest of their life. You done told all the business because you want to look hard. Just stop, dude.
With their crimes nowadays, criminals want everyone to know so they can get credit and become a block legend.
Fucking street
Police
critic,
also
bro.
discovered that hours after committing 3 crimes, Steven posts "I'm a made man" on his Instagram. Police had also discovered that Preston, who was obsessed with the gangs in his neighborhood, was known to post all of his beefs online and was into it with a number of different suburban sets.
I wonder if the internet like wasn't a thing, if the crime rate would go down. Cause bro, a lot of people do shit just so they can have credit for this shit and post that shit online. You try to look cool and shit, bro. That shit is so crazy to me.
Other witnesses describe how most of the beefs he was getting into were for attention and that a lot of the threats Steven would make are mostly cap. Preston, who grew up upper middle class in Spokane, was a really good kid and was excelling in school and nearly had a 4-point GPA. But when he turned 13, everything in his life started to change. He became fascinated with Chicago drill and would listen to Chief Keef, Little Durk, and King Von all day long. His bedroom was covered with posters of Chief Keef and his personalities.
That shit is... That's dick sucking. I ain't gonna pay. Bro, you had no reason. Like, no reason to get into no shit. Like, nothing. No reason at all, bro. 4 point.
To change. He started
Like,
skipping.
usually, I'll give it a pass. Like, usually if it's like a traumatic experience happened or something, your friend got killed, da-da-da. But you just going off of listening to music? You ain't even seen no shit like that in person. Like, what the fuck?
And his grades start to plummet. And this is when he decides he wants to join a gang just like his favorite rappers and live a life of crime. He started selling illegal substances and associating with the suburban gangs in his neighborhood. He wanted to be just like his favorite rappers and started dissing members of rivals that had passed away. What started off as a costume was turning into reality for the young man. He was now involved with some pretty dangerous people that he had met through the distribution of illegal substances. Bro had now somehow turned a fascination with drill culture into his day-to-day reality. The beef began because Preston was looking for attention and randomly messaged Steven threatening him for no apparent reason. This was during the pandemic when people were extremely bored and had nothing to do other than get themselves into trouble. And Preston, who considered himself a tough guy, was randomly messaging people and threatening them. But he couldn't have picked a worse time to do this because Steven and the 18th Street Blue Devils were already on edge because someone was knocking over and vandalizing one of Steven's fellow 18th Street Blue Devils' deceased gang buddies' candles, and Steven incorrectly thought it was Preston. But it's when Preston starts claiming he has $1,000 on Steven's head that things really start to escalate. This is clearly self-destructive attention-seeking behavior. If I had to speculate on why Preston was doing this, it was because he was not receiving the attention he needed at home, so he was acting out. Steven believed that he had to do what he did or else it was going to be done to him. But in reality, Preston was not the threat that he made himself out to be and was just a lost 15-year-old that wanted to be noticed. But for Steven and his defense team, all the threats publicly documented online from Preston gave him a reason for what happened. Steven's defense team was going hard with the claims about self-defense and were arguing that Steven must have thought that Preston was strapped up when he saw him and was in fear of his life.
That's a good ass argument though, but nah, hell no. It depends where he got shot at. Cause if he ain't see him, then if he got shot in the back or something and he ain't see him, how the fuck was you scared of your life?
Steven claims when he saw Preston, he was reaching for something that he thought was a blower and he had no option but to do what he did. For the first time in a while, things were starting to look promising for Steven, and there was some belief he may beat the charges or plea down to a lesser charge of manslaughter. But for Preston and his family, they were going to do everything in their ability to prevent that from happening and get full justice for him. Unfortunately for Steven, his arrogance ended up being his downfall. The prosecutor was claiming that Steven's attitude and social media antics before and after the crime are what qualifies what he did as premeditation. And this could be the difference between 15 years or a life sentence. And now it was looking like how in almost all cases related to criminal gangs that the persona Steven made for himself on social media was going to be the reason for his downfall. It's hard to claim you were genuinely in fear for your life when you are constantly bragging about how you're a stepper and you have no fear of the ops. And now is when the most shocking thing of them all is revealed in court. The blower that Preston was constantly showing off on Instagram and Snapchat in reality was a fake prop he had purchased on the internet. Preston
This nigga gun was fake the whole time. He never had a real gun. And he was posting that bitch on the internet, acting like it was real. Yo. Trying too hard, bro.
was a good kid that wanted to be accepted by his peers, so he pretended to be something he was not. But then it comes out in court that Steven had made a critical mistake. Right after committing the heinous crime on a 15-year-old poser, he texted one of his fellow gang buddies. 1K on me, essentially admitting to the crime. Prosecutors discovered how in order to go up the ranks of the 18th Street Blue Devils, you had to put in the work.
It's a very large crime scene, and this marks the second shooting at a Spokane park in just the last 2 days.
As goofy and non-threatening as these kids might look, they were committing serious crimes and terrorizing the suburbs.
Officers found one person dead in the street and another victim shot in the face, but still alive. A short time later, police learned 2 other shooting victims had been dropped off at a hospital.
Why these young men chose a life of crime is beyond me, and they had become a top priority for police.
Those gunshots rang out in this residential neighborhood as people slept. Just 2 days earlier, 4 people were shot at Dutch Jake Park in West Central Spokane.
Prosecutors argue that Steven committed this crime in order to go up the ranks in his gang. For all the fakers out there,
bro, I don't know why you guys be saying Walmart Italy Chupa, whatever that means type stuff, because, feel me, I be looking fine. I don't shop at Walmart.
Yo,
you
gang.
don't get drip like me at Walmart.
That shit crazy as fuck. I can't even watch that shit.
the nail in the coffin came when prosecutors played a song made by one of Steven's fellow gang members giving a play-by-play of the homicide. Remember how Preston was affiliated with the Long Beach Crips and how Steven had blood on his shoes?
If you're a real killer from Long Beach, why was he running it? But on the other hand, to be honest, I'm a little screw. Nothing to lose, trying to see blood up on these new shoes.
His gang buddy was quoted by prosecutors for saying, "Leave blood up on these new shoes, intimate details about the crime not released to the public on a song."
Trying to see blood up on these new shoes. Shouldn't have been up on the internet while he was tweaking, all that sneaking.
And now he had reiterated the motive given by prosecutors for the crime disrespect on the internet.
Shouldn't have been up on the internet while he was tweaking, all that sneaking.
And there you have it, a slam dunk closed case for prosecutors, but will the jury spare him because of his age and ethnicity? He was found guilty of all charges, but the next question for prosecutors was, did Steven know where Preston was going to be? And here is when the truth about Daisy comes to light. Right after the crime, Steven texted her celebrating what he had just done. Detectives knew that she was not the innocent girl she was pretending to be
Yeah,
and was likely
oh.
involved and responsible for what happened. Recovered messages show that when they first started messaging each other back and forth, Steven asked her if she was willing to set up men for the gang, and she responded yes. Police were angered.
Why do y'all hoes do that shit? Why do that? Why do y'all do that shit, bruh? And I ain't gonna lie, bro. It's so crazy because, like, a lot of niggas, they be wanting some little quick shit, you know what I'm saying? They think, oh, girl, gone, then die. Like, that's, like, why do they think it's okay to do that shit, though? That shit is so, bro, that shit.
The fact she had been lying to them this whole time. It came out that she
shit
had
make
her
niggas
own prior
paranoid.
problems with Preston after he got involved with her cousin, and she wanted him to pay for it. It was actually Daisy that had came up with the plan to get Preston over to the rival hood. First, she tried luring him to a wooded area, but Preston didn't bite the bait. And then she sent him to her aunt's apartment and even offered Steven her parking space. It ended up being Daisy's cousin, the one that had gotten involved with Preston, that revealed the truth to police. She was eventually arrested in Las Vegas and sent back to Spokane to face criminal charges. She got off easy and was found guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree assault and 2 counts of rendering criminal assistance. The reality of the situation is, without her setting him up, Preston would still be here today.
Damn. It just ended like that?
If you're a web designer,
Shit. I didn't know it was gonna end like that, but that shit crazy, bro. I don't understand the fake gangster persona and shit, bro. Especially if nothing happened to you or you never seen no shit like that. It's kind of a weird lifestyle to try to jump into, but yeah, that was the vid. You know what I'm saying? Leave a like if you fucked with it. Comment what you want me to react to next. Follow me on Instagram, it's.zale3. Subscribe to my main channel, and we out to the next one, gang.